What is going on, YouTube? Andrew Miller from Hook'emHeadlines.com coming back at you today with my reaction to the Big 12 releasing its football schedule for the 2023 season. We are finally getting the Big 12's release for the conference schedule for next fall. I believe the Big 12 is the last of the major conferences to get this out. So it was nice to finally see what the conference slate will look like for each team, specifically Texas, since we're a Texas-oriented site. I'll be spending some time here in this video just kind of breaking down the Longhorns schedule for 2023, giving you kind of the high-level overview and important markers for the upcoming season. My initial reaction to Texas's schedule, at least the home portion of it, was pretty underwhelming. Texas doesn't really have that many exciting home games until the month of November. Part of that is just due to the biggest game of the non-conference slate, which comes against Alabama on September 9th. That comes on the road. The two non-con home games of the regular season are against Wyoming and Rice, so I don't think that'll be anything too noteworthy, but even the Big 12 home games, Texas only has two of them in September on October. They open up Big 12 play at home against Kansas in late September, and then the final game of October 28th, Texas will host BYU for the first time in about a decade. The rest of the schedule is, there's some interesting games on there. You got Red River on October 7th in Dallas against OU. You've got a pretty loaded slate of games for November. Texas starts off the month and with really the first super intriguing, I think, Big 12 home game of the season. You can argue BYU, but for me, the Texas-Kansas State game is going to be bigger. That is taking place on November 4th. Texas then has two straight road games to cap the Big 12 road slate in 2023 against TCU in Fort Worth and then Iowa State in Ames. And then Texas rounds out the regular season on November 24th on Black Friday against Texas Tech. It'll be the first time since 2019 that Texas has hosted Texas Tech in Austin. Black Friday, I did want to mention too, is a pretty loaded day of games. There's only two, but they're both I would imagine are going to be pretty high stakes games. You got TCU at OU, and then Texas Tech at Texas. OU, my memory serves me right here, doesn't usually play on Black Friday, so that's certainly something of note. Even that Saturday, you got some interesting games. BYU at Oklahoma State, West Virginia at Baylor, Houston at UCF. So it's going to be a pretty loaded weekend in the Big 12. A couple other key dates for Texas on the regular season schedule. I mentioned that Texas plays BYU on October 28th. Among the new additions, the new members in the conference, which are UCF, BYU, Houston, and Cincinnati, Texas also plays Houston on the road on October 21st. So I would imagine that that's going to be a really interesting game. I'm sure Houston faithful will be ready to show out, but Texas also has a strong alumni base in Houston, so I'm sure that you will see a large burnt orange crowd there as well. Those are the only two teams among the new members in the Big 12 that will be facing Texas. The two teams that drop off the schedule for 2023 among the usual Big 12 foes are West Virginia and Oklahoma State. Had Texas played both those teams in 2023, it would have been West Virginia in Morgantown and then Oklahoma State in Austin. I would have liked to see Texas play Oklahoma State next fall after, the way the game went in Stillwater last season. Playing West Virginia and Morgantown, there's been some close games there. So you could potentially be losing two interesting games there, especially the Texas-Oklahoma State game. I think that could have added some meat to the October slate, considering that Texas and Oklahoma State usually play in October. The bye week comes on October 14th. So Texas gets the bye week after just 3 weeks of Big 12 play. So it's pretty early on there. If I had my choice, probably would have had it a little bit later in the Big 12 slate. Just, once you get later into the slate, you start racking up injuries. Fatigue can start kicking in. Having that extra week to game plan can also be key, depending on who your opponent is coming out of the bye week. So this year for Texas, it's coming after Red River. So you got a week in between OU and then on the road against Houston. But yeah, like I said, this schedule for the Big 12 for 2023, I think there's more intriguing games on the road than there are at home. That includes Texas opening up Big 12 play on September 23rd against Baylor in Waco. You also got TCU in Fort Worth, as I had mentioned before, Iowa State on the road. So there are some interesting Big 12 home games for the Longhorns, but you pretty much have to wait until end of October and then throughout November. So we'll see. But like I said, there's still a long ways to go until until we're about ready to kick off the 2023 season. So there could still be a lot of moving pieces here. The last couple of things I really wanted to note, we did a breakdown of Texas's schedule, just looking at it from a couple different perspectives on our Twitter page. Just in one quick tweet, found a couple interesting things among the teams that finished in the top 25 for the AP poll this past season. Texas faces 3 teams. Next year, I believe that will be Kansas State, Alabama, and TCU. Among the top 25 teams on PFF's way too early rankings for the 2023 season, Texas has 4 of those teams on the slate. I believe those are OU, Alabama, Kansas State, and TCU, and then Texas. I believe Texas Tech as well was on a lot of the way too early top 25s, just not on PFF's. And then the last thing, and one of the more interesting things that I found, was that if you're looking at the early edition of Bill Connolly's returning production rankings for the 2023 season, there were 2 teams among the top 30 in the FBS that Texas faces next year. So, based off that early set of returning production rankings, it looks like Texas could be facing some teams with a lot of new faces on the 2 deep. But again, we have almost an entire offseason of roster movement still ahead. You still have the spring portal cycle. There's still going to be some graduate transfer movement in the portal in the next few months, and then you still have you still have a couple days before National Signing Day, so there could still be some movement, position battles in camp, things like that. So, just a couple of things to watch there. But this is going to be an interesting end if this is Texas's final season in the Big 12, along with OU's. Just because OU got a pretty difficult schedule for 2023, kind of upon first glance. So Texas probably got off easier in that regard. But anyway, for Andrew Miller at Hook'emHeadlines.com, that's pretty much it. Welcome.